Thank you for coming early in the morning. For me, being on West Coast time, it's especially early in the morning. I bet the first thing you're wondering is, this guy's from Microsoft. What's up with his laptop? I have to say that I've been a designer my whole career, and when Apple announced that they were switching to Intel chips, I immediately got my Mac, went back to Mac, and this is running Windows, by the way. And also, people don't know this, but a lot of people don't. But Microsoft is actually one of the largest, if not the largest, software developer outside of Apple for the Mac platform, like Mac Office, for example. So I'll just dig in. So my name is August, and everyone always asks. Yes, I was born in the month of August on the 17th. And I'm a designer, and I'm from Boston, but I live in Seattle, where I work for Microsoft. And at Microsoft, I work for a team called Surface. And for those of you who don't know what Surface is, it's this kind of tabletop computing environment. And it doesn't use a mouse and a keyboard. Actually, if you put objects on it or if you put your finger on it, it creates these really intuitive, natural interactions. I haven't always been at Surface while I was at Microsoft. Before that, I used to work in Windows, but not in the software side of the house. I worked in the hardware. There's a small strategic hardware design team in Windows, and the role of this team is to kind of get the hardware and the software to work better together. So we design these software-hardware features that make the two work better together. One example is my boss, he designed the scroll wheel on the mouse. And then my colleague Carl, who sat next to me, he helped pick the colors of the connectors on the back of PCs. So those are the kind of projects that this team does. Yes, there is a team at Microsoft that thinks about these things. In fact, one of my last projects on this team was to update the spec for the Windows key on keyboards all over the planet. And when my boss said, when Vista comes out, we need to update this key, so would you design the spec for that? And I was like, okay, no problem. This will take like a day, right? You know, make a circle, put the flag in. This project took about a year. And the reason why, it was kind of shocking, but the reason why is actually the very reason why I decided to come to work at Microsoft as a designer, which is the scale and the breadth of the design problems that we get. It's very hard to find anywhere else on the planet. So when I had to design the spec for this key, I had to consider basically every form of every keyboard, whether it was a laptop or a tablet or a desktop, of all the major manufacturers, and it's a huge, wicked problem. And so that's why it takes so long. But again, the upside of having a problem of this scale is that you see the impact of your work. And I travel a lot internationally for my job, and a lot of times when I go through customs, the customs official looks at my card and says, so you're a designer, what do you design? And I peek over at their keyboard and I say, see that key right there? I designed that. And then they let me through. Another one of my projects on that team was to design a touch-based interface. This is a sketch of it, and here's a prototype of it and another prototype. And it was actually released on the market as the touch mode of the first version of the HP Touch Smart PC. That's another example of us working with a hardware partner to come up with something new. And so that work kind of led me to where I am today, which is at Surface. So I was asked to talk about the future, and that's one of my favorite topics. And what I'll be talking about today is one aspect of the future of design that I believe is the most important factor in thinking about design moving forward, and that's about emotion. And this will get a bit theoretical, a bit philosophical, but to keep things kind of grounded in reality, the second half of this presentation, I'll ask my colleague Arturo to come up and show how a lot of this thinking actually is working its way into the products and services that we're creating, and things that you can take back when you get back to work to apply this kind of thinking and framework to your day-to-day jobs. But for this first part of the double feature, it'll all be about emotion. In fact, I'd long wondered what it is that makes people feel, what makes people react so strongly to certain experiences, and especially when it comes to designing products and services, and what makes people make buying decisions or do seemingly irrational things. Well, there's a lot of literature on emotional design and in the discourse, but a lot of it addresses the why. And being a more practical sort, I wanted to know more about the how. So, like a good Microsoft employee, I decided to formalize my research, and through a stroke of luck, I got into the Graduate School of Design at Harvard, where I could pursue this question. And a lot of people don't know that Harvard has a Graduate School of Design, and it has a tremendous legacy. Folks like Le Corbusier and Walter Gropius were affiliated in its legacy. Michael Graves is a graduate, so is I.M. Pei. On faculty now is Rem Koolhaas. And the thing is, this is the design school building, and it sits at the edge of Harvard Yard. And it's what you'd expect a design school to look like, big open spaces and studios and so forth. Well, this stands in stark contrast to the rest of Harvard, which looks more like this. This is Annenberg Hall. This is the freshman dining hall, if you could believe it. And yeah, it bears a striking resemblance to the dining hall in the Harry Potter movies. So